Hey guys, welcome to Actualol. A week ago I went to Spiel 17, the biggest board game convention in Europe in Essen, Germany, and I brought back a whole bunch of games. In fact, I shipped 2 boxes of games back as well as bringing a bunch in my suitcase. And this is my haul video. I did one last year, and this is all the games that I picked up. Now, before I start, I want to say that this is not a normal amount of games for one person to buy, and that's largely because I didn't buy all of them. The majority of these I got for free as review copies. And so I don't want anyone out there to be watching this who have a tiny board game haul in comparison and to feel bad or anything like that. The reason I got these is because I'm a YouTuber, I'm going to be reviewing them, and I got most of them for free. So I also want to say that I'm interested in all of these games, but most of them I haven't played yet, and so I can't guarantee that they're good, and so it's not necessarily an endorsement that they're in this video other than that they sound exciting to me. So let's get on with the games. Right, I'm going to start with this box, and people that watched last year will be pleased to see that I have a box knife. This was from my time working at a supermarket, because last year I tried to open a box with a pair of scissors and got many comments about it. This is number 9, and this is actually a game that came out earlier in the year, but the reason I have a copy of number 9 is that we did a meetup with No Pun Included, John Gets Games, and Semi-Co-op Comic, and we had a meetup. There was about 80 people that came, and we played a big simultaneous game of number 9, and this is a sort of puzzle game that I've still yet to play, but my girlfriend Serena, who came to Essen with me, she took part in the tournament, and she won on her table. So everyone won a copy on the table that they were on if they got the most points on that table. And it just works really well for a group game because you just draw cards which tell you what piece you have to play, and everyone is doing exactly the same thing at the same time, but it's the way you do it that determines how many points you get. And it's a cool light puzzle game. Thank you to Abacus Spieler for giving us 20 copies of the game. I'm looking forward to actually trying it for the first time. Grumpf is a real-time game where you are placing tokens onto different animals. I think you're trying to catch them. It's got a cute theme, but it's a very simple game, plays in like 15 minutes, and I demoed it so briefly that I forget it, but you're basically trying to meet certain objectives on these things and place. You're combining with other people, but you're trying to win the most points. It sounds fun. That's Grumpf. Half Pint Heroes is a trick-taking card game that I very briefly demoed. This has a cute sort of, well, I say cute, it's a theme of like drunk people fighting, and I feel like it's very based on British characters. There's a few recognizable faces in on the card art, and this one works slightly different to a classic trick-taking game because it uses poker hands, and there are cards in the middle, much like in Texas Hold'em Poker, that you are using for your, you're combining them with the cards in your hand, and you're trying to bet on how many tricks you're going to win. So yeah, looking forward to trying that one properly. Wits and Wagers Party Edition was brought to me by North Star Games, and there's a little story behind this. Bruce brought over the Wits and Wagers Vegas playmat for me to try. I was super excited about it, and then I'm a complete idiot and I left it in my hotel room. There's a very wonderful guy out there called Marcus who is hopefully going to pick it up for me from, he lives in Essen, and he's going to pick it up from the hotel and send it over to me in London, because my hotel was going to charge me 51 euros to send it when it should have cost about 15. Anyway, the reason for Party Edition is because this is a version that works with the Vegas playmat, and the Vegas playmat basically advances your betting options with Wits and Wagers, which, if you don't know, is a great trivia game where you're betting on answers. You're effectively guessing and then betting on other people's answers, things like that. It's great. And this is the party version. Right, here I've got some, I actually came back from Essen this time with some artwork. I got to meet my favourite board game designer, Tim Fowers, who did Paperback and Burgle Brothers and a bunch of other great games. And he gave us this awesome art print that I need to put on the wall somewhere in my backdrop. So that is that. And then I've also got some artwork. This is from a game that I'm going to mention in a bit, so I will mention that in a bit. And this is from Celestia, which is one of my favourite push your luck games that I picked up at Essen last year. And it's got some really nice artwork in it. And so there's a bunch of those that represent the different cities in Essen. These are from Time Arena, which is another game that I'm going to mention in a sec. So maybe I'll come back to all of these. But needless to say, really nice artwork. So that is that. Okay. Dice Town. This is one of the only games that I picked up that isn't new this year, but this is actually a new reprint from Matago. Dice Town came out a bunch of years ago. It's from Ludovic Malblanc and Bruno Catala, and it's got a Wild West theme, and you're kind of betting on stuff, and you're trying to use poker dice to get the right things. I'm not describing it brilliantly, but it's I really like it, and I had the old version, but I had it in French. And so this is a slightly improved version, so I wanted to get it in English so that the cards made sense. Gods is a strategy game where you are playing as different gods and you're trying to control people. And I don't know much more about it than that. The box is sealed at the moment, so I'm looking forward to trying that one. My story is from Homo Sapien Labs, and this was at the Taiwan Board Game Design stand, which is this big stand with a bunch of different Taiwanese board game publishers, and they had a bunch of interesting games, and this one's got some really nice artwork, and is it's about living a life. It's a deck building card game about living a good life, and that is a theme that always really interests me. I've already got a few games like that, CV and Pursuit of Happiness, so I'm interested to see what twists my story can do with that theme. Happy Salmon, I'm really excited to get the blue version of Happy Salmon. The reason for that, I already have Happy Salmon. It's a brilliant party game that I talked about in my top 10 Christmas gifts video. This takes it to 12 players, so it's exactly the same game that you can play on its own, but it's got different coloured cards so that you can play, instead of just being up to 6 players, it's now up to 12 players, and that's amazing for me. So I can't wait to do massive games of that. This is something that's really cool. This little package here is, this is from Champions of Midgard. The guys at Grey Fox Games have made a promo with one of my characters in. This is an Actualol first. So if any of you have seen my Champions of Midgard review, where there's a character in that called Björn Hammerblow, and he's an idiot Viking, basically. And so they've made a character that you can play in Champions of Midgard, and he's called Björn Hammerblow, the Fantastic. And what I really love about this is that his special ability in the game is whenever you kill a troll, gain one something of your choice, wood, I think. And this occurs even if the troll was actually just Ricky who lives under the bridge. So that is a niche reference to one of my older videos. So that's just super cool of them, that not only they did it after one of my characters, but they put in the a reference to one of the jokes in the video. So they're going to be, I've got a few of these right now, but they're going to be releasing this properly, I think, probably next year. Because they're waiting to have ability that they can add to it that also works with the expansion. So that is Champions of Midgard promo. Time Arena. This was one of the ones that I had the really nice art prints for. This I briefly demoed, is a 2 to 4 player game where you are attacking another team and you're playing against a timer. You're playing with kind of a chess clock. So I think you get 5 minutes each, and once you've done with your move, you hit the button and then it's their turn. And you can lose the game by running out of time, or you can win the game by trying to kill your opponents by trying to take enough points off them. And you have these units that are going around and attacking, and they have different strengths and ranges and movement abilities. But when they die, they don't come back to life. You have sand timers to track when they come back to life. And and the better ones take longer to come back to life than the weaker ones. And so I just really love the idea of a light sort of war game, really, that has a real time element. You can't waste time thinking about your moves too much, but you still do need to be strategic, or otherwise you'll just get wiped off. And there's special abilities that you can bring in and make it even more interesting. So that's Time Arena. Shadows in Kyoto is another one that was from Taiwan Board Game Design, specifically Emperor S4, it looks like. And this is a 2-player game with some... it's got numbers underneath these wooden pieces, so it's got some hidden points that I believe makes it play a little bit like Stratego. It's a nice small box, and it's got very similar artwork, and I don't know if it's the same designer, but it says Hanamakoji at the bottom, and that was a huge 2-player card game hit of last year's Essen, and this seems to be from the same team, so that in itself makes it pretty exciting. That's Shadows in Kyoto. Ristorante Italia is a game that I've had for a while, but I had it in Italian and had a bunch of cards in it that didn't make a whole lot of sense. So it's really exciting to get an English version of this game, which is, I think, a worker placement game about running a restaurant, and you're having to get ingredients from the shops to be able to complete recipes. You're adding things to your menu, and you've got food critics coming to visit and things like that. You're basically just trying to make the best restaurant against all the other, best Italian restaurant against all the other players in the game. ARG is a small card game that is, it's a bluffing game that reminds me a lot of Cockroach Poker. This is from Blue Cocker Games. They've made a few games that I like in the past, like Casting and another one that I'm forgetting. And this one is still very simple and very quick game, where you are trying to collect points and collect things, but you're having to bluff against the players as to what cards you've seen, or because if you want to keep a card, you can offer it to someone else and they can keep it or reject it, much like in Cockroach Poker. Of course, most of the time for a good card, you want them to reject it, and then it comes back to you face up. Or you can keep cards face down, hoping that other players won't steal them. So having cards face down creates an unknown element, but they're also at risk of being stolen. And it's the first to try and get 2 specific cards to be able to create a bomb. The theme is that you're mice trying to kill humans. Or it's if nobody creates the bomb, it's about getting the most points. I demoed this and I've played it again, and it's just a cool little filler card game. I like it. A good bluffing game. Ilos is a game where you are exploring a map. It's got these hexagon tiles, these beautiful islands, and you're sailing around in ships. And I don't know too much else about it other than that. I believe it's sort of a light to medium weight strategy game. Doesn't take too long, and it's got some really nice artwork. And yeah, haven't tried this one out yet. Mountains of Madness. This was in my top 20 anticipated games. This is from Rob Davio, and it's a party game where you are cooperatively trying to... It has an H.P. Lovecraft theme where you're trying to explore this mountain and not go insane. And the reason that I'm really excited about this game is these madness cards that force you to communicate in weird ways, or it hampers the communication you have between the players. And so it very much devolves into a silly party game where people are having... I heard about someone who could only talk if they touched their neighbour's face. So it's probably one to play with friends. And I can't wait to check it out. It also has some amazing artwork. And also I have a mug that has the wonderful Mountains of Madness artwork on as well. That was from Yellow. Warstones. This is from Red Glove, same as Ristorante Italia and Gods. And this is their new flicking game. So this is like a family weight dexterity game. It comes with a sort of play mat that depicts a landscape, and you are attacking the other player by flicking these poker chips. They're really nice poker chips, and they have little unit strengths on and things like that. So there's a bit more strategy than your average flicking game. Haven't tried it yet, but I love I'm always looking for the next dexterity game to fall in love with. That's Warstones. When I Dream. So hopefully, if you've watched any of my videos, you'll know that I absolutely love When I Dream. When I Dream was my favourite game from Essen last year. And then it was this small box party card game that... I don't know how many copies they had, but not very many, and I was one of the few people in the world that had it for the last year, and now it's out properly, and it was huge at Essen. They had massive booths that were always rammed, queues to buy it, and I imagine it sold loads and loads of copies, and so I was delighted to get my version. I think it has like many more cards than the previous game. It comes with this plastic bed to keep the cards in. I wish I loved the box art a little bit more, but really it's all about the game that's inside. This is a great party game where one person's wearing a blindfold, everyone else is trying to get them to guess certain words, but there's hidden roles, and some people are trying to throw them off with their clues, but they don't want to throw them off too much because then the person won't trust them. It was such a unique game last year, and it just does something that the other party games don't, and that's why I love it. If you like party games at all, you really need to check out When I Dream. And I have 2 copies of it because it's such a good game that my friend wanted me to bring him back a copy. So that is my second copy of When I Dream. This is a different faction pack for Warstones, so they come with different cards that represent the different units that you can play with, obviously offer different abilities and things like that. So that's really cool. It's obviously like a expandable dexterity game. Outlive. This is, I think, possibly the heaviest game that I picked up. I tend not to go so much for Euro strategy games, and Essen is awash with those. So those are the big hits of the convention. And it's not that I necessarily always don't like them, but I feel like, for me, Essen's about finding the hidden gems. And if I decide one day that I want to try the big Euro hits of Essen, there will be many opportunities for me to do that in my board game group. And so I tend not to pick up those types of games. But Outlive is one with a theme that really interests me. I'm always intrigued by a thematic Euro game. I guess like Ristorante Italia is kind of like that as well. And so this is about a post-apocalyptic future where you're trying to survive and you're trying to get the things you need to survive your faction of people. And I believe there's some interaction between the factions as well. Got some really nice artwork as well. That's Outlive. This is another faction for Warstones. These are the Elder, so basically same as before. What's It to Ya? It's a game that I demoed very late on the Sunday, and this is, they described it very well as a icebreaker of a game. It's about sort of trying to guess how your friends think about things. So for example, you've got a bunch of cards that say, well, here on the back of the box is baseball, tree, adventure, shopping, chicken, and you just have to decide, you have to rank them. So which do you care about more, baseball, tree, adventure, shopping, or chicken? And then the other players are trying to guess the ranks that you have, and you get points if you get them in the right spot. These are the poker chips for Warstones, so not much more to say on that. Yellow gave me this really nice art book that has, I haven't actually opened it up yet, so I assume it's nice, that has all their wonderful art. I mean, Yellow, they did Mountains of Madness, they have great artwork in their games, and this is a little art book to show some of that off. Alright, that is the first box down. I'm going to pass it off to my trusty assistant and bring in the new one. This is a playmat for word domination, and this is from Fowers Games, and that was a word game that was on Kickstarter this year or last year, and it's a really simple word game where you've got area control over letters, so you create a word to try and control some letters, and the other players are trying to create different words that also use similar letters to try and either oust you off of those ones or win other ones. It's a really simple game. I would highly recommend it for families and if you like word games. Invisible Ink is from Hutch and Friends, and this is a party drawing game with a twist, and I'm always interested in those. So this one uses, well, the idea is it uses invisible ink. I believe it actually just uses a highlighter pen, but some players will be wearing these red glasses so they can't see the ink. And for some rounds, it'll be the drawer that can't see what they're drawing. Other rounds, it will be the guessers that can't see what the drawer is drawing. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm really excited to. That's invisible ink. Favelas is a tile game that actually played twice at Essen. This is from Chris Bryan, and you might know him from the YouTube channel Bored with Life, and he also does his own board game news and other videos. And it was great. He demoed me the game. He's a really nice guy. I got to meet him for the first time. And his game is really cool. It's his first game. It's got amazing artwork from Kwanchai Moria. And it's really simple but thinky. It plays in like half an hour. And you're placing these double hexagon tiles onto your favelas. They're different colours. And the colours are going to get you different points. You're trying to get the majority to beat out the other players to get the points for them. But you can also adjust the point values of the different colours. These are represented by dice, a bit like Biblios. It's just a really great kind of simple but thinky game. That's Favelas. Matterhorn is from Helvetique. And these are a Swiss publisher that I was really excited by the games that they had because they've all got a nice minimalist aesthetic to them. And I tried a whole bunch of their games, and some of them are a bit too family, kid-friendly, a bit too simple. Matterhorn is a push-your-luck dice game that reminds me of Can't Stop, or at least I hope it does when I get to play it properly. And it's also from Leo Colovini, who's designed a whole bunch of games. And it's got great aesthetic, just like all of their games. And so looking forward to trying this one again. Harvest Island, this is from another Taiwanese publisher, Big Fun, and this is a card game with some push your luck and set collection where you are having to plant seeds of fruits and collect enough cards to grow those fruits and do better than the other players in the game. But you can also, if you try and keep them for too long, the weather might get bad and destroy your crops. It's got some lovely artwork to it. That's Harvest Island. Stickman, this is another one from Helvetique. This is what I'm most excited about. It's a party game with a unique twist, and that is that there are these cards that represent different shapes, and you have to draw them on the back of other players with a stick. So people are trying to guess what you're drawing on their back, and that sounds fun to me. That is Stickman. Wonderword is also from Helvetique, and they have this whole line of games which look like matchboxes, and they all have matchsticks inside. And this one is a word game, and I can't remember much more about it other than that. But it again has this amazing aesthetic, and I would really urge any publishers who have got simple designs, take them to this company because they will make them look amazing. And they had a really nice array of different art styles and in these tiny boxes that feel a bit like Oink games from Japan. So I'm really excited about this company, and I hope that I love the games as much as I love the artwork. Gamer Over. This is a really interesting one. This is a murder mystery game about a murder that's taken place in a board game convention. So imagine that a YouTuber or some kind of board game journalist has been killed, and everyone in the game plays different characters such as designers and publishers, and they're trying to find out who the murderer is. And I have one of the only English copies. This is effectively like a prototype version because it was out in Germany, Essen. And it's, as far as I know, a kind of a classic murder mystery game. You imagine those dinner party type games that you play for a few hours in an evening. And I've never got to play one of those. Always wanted to. And so this is my chance. And I just love the theme. Voodoo is a standalone expansion to Voodoo, which is a game that I have and I haven't had a chance to play yet. But this is another game that features curses, much like the Madness cards in Mountains of Madness, where you're being forced by the game to do certain crazy things, such as have your arm on someone else's shoulder or stand on one leg, things like that, and you're all the while trying to roll dice. So I like the idea of these games, haven't tried them yet to know whether I actually like them. That's Voodoo. Senators. This is a auction card game. This is from Le Mans Games, who are a very small British company, and they are run by Ricky Tata, who designed Coup and Gooseberry from last year, which is a party game from last year that I loved and is now out as Chameleon. This is designed by his dad, Haig, and I believe he sort of helped develop it. And it's a very clever, deep auction game. This is a very small box, and it's just a bunch of cards, but it has some interesting auction mechanisms. That is Senators. One Night Ultimate Alien. If you know the One Night Ultimate Werewolf series, I have a couple of those. I like them for being simple but interesting social deduction games that you can play really quickly and over again. And so I just wanted to see what they've done with this Alien expansion. That's that one. Big Bazaar is from Adam Porter. I spoke about him in my top 20 anticipated games because he designed another game that I haven't spoken about yet. And he had another design out at this convention. And what I really love about what he's doing is he's designing like sort of family games. And, as you can tell, those are games that I often love. This one he described to me as having similarities to Anomia, which is a reaction game, a speed game that I really enjoy. And that's what got me interested. So that's Big Bazaar. Rolling America. This is one that was not out at Essen this year. This is an older game. John Gets Games was coming over from America, and there's a few games that I've always wanted to get that are only available in America. This is one of them. It's a simple roll and write game. He offered to bring some over for me, and so this was one of the ones that was on my wish list. And yeah, it's got a bit of paper, you're rolling some dice and you're trying to get numbers in the right places, a little bit like Quinto or Quicks, games like that. So that's Rolling America. Liberatores, it was in my anticipated games. This is a social deduction game and it's trying to do something a bit different. There are 3 factions. One person's trying to keep Caesar alive, other people are trying to kill him, another person is trying to kill him and become the new Caesar, effectively, and it's got deeper mechanisms than your average social deduction game, and that's why I'm interested in it. That's Liberatores. Doodle Rush. This is the other Adam Porter game that I was telling you about. This is a drawing game, and it's got a speed element to it, where you are all drawing at the same time, and then you're all guessing at the same time, and it's about how much time to invest in on each of your drawings, as you've got loads of things to draw, but if you draw them really badly because you're rushing it, will anybody guess them? That's Doodle Rush. Can't wait to try it. Haven't played it yet. MS Battery. This is one of the games that I'm most excited about, and one of the reasons for that is that we got to demo it briefly. Generally, the games at Essen that were on my wish list, on my anticipated games list, I picked up without trying because there's just so many games to try, and I've tried loads and loads and loads, and I had a big list of maybe 100 games that I wanted to check out, and very few of them, the ones that I really wanted to get, I actually get to try. This one, I decided to just sit down and give it a go, and I enjoyed it because it is exactly what I wanted it to be. It's a simple, streamlined take on that kind of Cluedo. I thought it was a murder mystery game. It's actually about a jewel thievery, but it's that kind of crime-solving thing. Has this great 3D board and really, really nice card art. If you're looking for a family kind of deduction game, I mean, I haven't played it properly enough to review it properly yet, but for me, I'm super excited about this one being a Cluedo killer. That's MS Battery. Bye Bye Black Sheep. This is a small box card game with adorable artwork, and this is from Jolly Thinkers. And I remember really being interested in this game when I was looking it up on the Essen list. Can't remember too much about it now, other than I believe it's a push your luck card game, and I think there's some bluffing there. So it's a filler level game, really. Looking forward to trying it anyway. That's Bye Bye Black Sheep. So that is the second box done. So now we're on to the games that I brought back in the suitcase. Starting with Café Fatale. I got to try this at Essen. I've played it since. This is a light dice game where you're trying to win pieces of cheese, pizza, and pie. And you're doing that by placing your dice on these different tables. and you're trying to beat out other players. If you've ever played Las Vegas, it feels similar, but with some interesting twists. I'll be talking about this one soon, I imagine, on my Now Playing series. So if you want to learn and find out more about any of these games after I play them, you watch my Now Playing vlogs. That's where I'll be talking about them first. And Café Fatale is, it is one that I'm enjoying. Sentient. This was out at Essen. I actually got it slightly before. This is from Renegade Games. It's had a lot of hype, and it's a real puzzly game as I understand it. There's certain rules about where you are placing your dice, and it seems like a really thinky one with some nice artwork as well. That's Sentient. Flip Ships, also from Renegade. This is a dexterity game from Kane Klenko where you're flipping these cardboard circles trying to kill these spaceships that are coming to get you. The theme feels a lot like Space Invaders, where they're coming to get you and you've got to kill them before too many of them overwhelm your city, and you're doing that by trying to land these things, and it's a cooperative dexterity game. You're playing together. There's also this 3D mothership that you're trying to get your disc into. Really like the idea of this one. I'm worried that it's too hard for us as a group. We really struggle with it the first time. So if anyone's got any tips on how to be better at flip ships, let me know, because I love the artwork, I love the theme, and I love the idea of cooperative dexterity games. Kitchen Rush. This was one of my most hyped games, and I've got to play it since and really enjoy Kitchen Rush. This is a real-time cooperative game about running a restaurant from Artipia Games. It's got such thematic flavour to it, and this unique mechanism of using sand timers as your workers, so you can't move them until the sands run out. Love this one. We'll be talking about this one soon. That's Kitchen Rush. Nemesis. This is a game that isn't out yet. This is going to be kickstarted, I believe, in December. This is from Rebel and Awaken Realms. And Awaken Realms did This War of Mine, which is a big Kickstarter success. I'm really excited about this one because it feels like an epic thematic game in the vein of Battlestar Galactica or Dead of Winter. You've got hidden objectives. You've all woken up on this ship from hypersleep. Someone's potentially a traitor, and you're trying to get home and survive, but there are also aliens that are attacking you. So this is a kind of prototype version, and the artwork on it looks really nice already. It's got this playmat of the board, and there's different ship locations, things like that. And then they also have given me some miniatures to play it with, which I haven't actually looked at yet. Okay, so these are some creepy alien miniatures with all manner of protrusions coming out of them. So those are obviously the monsters that are attacking you in Nemesis. So looking forward to trying that one. Password Express is, well, I love the small box on this. This is from Spain, and this is a word game, a party game really. You're playing on teams, and you've got a bunch of categories that against a timer you're trying to think of words within that category that start with a certain letter, or that the letter's in the second place of the word or the third place of the word. And it's surprisingly hard, but it's great that you play on a team and you're playing against a timer, and it's back and forth between the teams to try and fill up the grid of to get points so yeah, it's a really simple idea but works really nicely. Password Express. Blank. This is from the Creativity Hub, who made Rory Story Cubes, and this is a game that I've played a bunch of times now. This is a game where you create your own rules. It says make it your game, and it starts off as a very simple card game where you're trying to get rid of your cards by playing cards that match the colour or number of the card that's already down on the discard pile. When you win the game for the first time, you get to change the game by making a rule. There's a bunch of different rule cards in the game, and so it starts off with a few different ones that you can play with. One of them, you have to sort of slam your hand on the deck as quick as possible if somebody plays a 1, or if somebody plays a certain colour, you have to name a city. things like that. But you can then take the game in any direction you want, and you could potentially take those rules out and bring in something completely different. And we've enjoyed coming up with new rules. It's quite challenging, but you create your own thing, and I think that's just a really joyful thing to do. And there's so much scope for it, because you can either create rule cards or you can change the actual number cards in your hand. You can draw on them and give them names, and there's even a spot to write your name as the person who designed that card. So I can't wait to see my game of this evolve. That is blank. Blurble is from North Star Games, and this is a party game where you have to shout out words as quickly as possible. Basically, the idea of it is that the card has a picture on it. So let's say it has a pirate on it. It doesn't say the word pirate. So you then have to think the word's pirate, and you have to say another word that starts with the same letter as the picture, as the word of the picture on the card. So it's just a speed challenge, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun, but I haven't played it yet. That's Blurble. Indian Summer, this was one of the big hyped games at Essen for almost everyone. This is from Uwe Rosenberg. It's the second in the puzzle trilogy after Cottage Garden from last year. It's got those Tetris-style polyominoes, much like Patchwork, and I haven't tried it yet. It's got wonderful artwork, and it's supposed to be a bit deeper, so can't say more than that, but certainly a hyped game. That's Indian Summer. Viral. This is one of the Dice Tower Essential games from Arcane Wonders, but also from Mesa Board Games. What I'm interested about this is the fact that it's got a cool medical theme. The idea is that your disease is trying to attack a body, and it's an area control game. And I haven't played it yet, but I love the theme, and it's got some really interesting artwork as well. That's Viral. Photosynthesis. This has to win the prize for best board game cover of this year, possibly ever. And this is an abstract game, 2 to 4 players, where you're planting trees and you're trying to get the most points. You're trying for your trees to get the most sunlight and grow up and get bigger. And the sun is moving around the board. And I love the idea of a simple abstract game, but with a cool theme to it, and it just looks beautiful. Haven't played this one yet. That's Photosynthesis. A Tale of Pirates. Well, this was my #1 most anticipated game. Haven't tried this one yet. One of the reasons for that is that it describes itself, it's a campaign game where you unlock a different envelope each time you play this, or there's 10 different scenarios and new things will be added to the game, and they specifically recommend in the rulebook to try and play the campaign through with the same group. And for me, that's always a bit tricky. It's also a bit daunting, because what if one person doesn't like it, or that person is unavailable for weeks on end? So it's been tricky to try and plan this one, and I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but it's a real-time cooperative game where you're on a pirate ship together, and again, like Kitchen Rush, you're using sand timers to complete actions, and it works with an app and has a bunch of scenarios, and it's from 2 really great designers, so can't wait to try it. A Tale of Pirates. Telestrations 12-player party pack. This is another one that I got Jon to bring me over from America. It's a crying shame that you can't get 12-player Telestrations in the UK, because this is one of my favourite party games, and 8 players just isn't enough, and that's the only version that you can get in the UK, so really excited to just have this in my collection now. Certainly nothing new, but a great game. Charterstone. Well, this isn't one that I got at Essen, but this was a very big game at Essen. This is a legacy game from Stonemaier Games. It's a worker placement game about building a village, and it's going to evolve as you unlock different packs and reveal new cards, and you're also making permanent imprints on the board of your village. That sounds really interesting. I hope it's not too Euro-y for me, but I'm certainly intrigued to try another legacy game, and it seems like it's been incredibly popular. I believe it sold out really quickly at Essen. That is Charterstone. Skyward. This is a card drafting game with some really nice artwork. Haven't had a chance to play it yet, but excited to try this one. Skyward. This is the Dice Town expansion. I spoke about Dice Town earlier, and this takes it up to 6 players and adds a few extra cards. And as I understand it from reviews, it makes it a lot better. This one has been impossible to get hold of in the UK, so I was really excited to see it at Essen, and that's why I bought it. The Pursuit of Happiness community, I backed this one on Kickstarter. The Pursuit of Happiness is a game about living a perfect life that is a game that I just love. And so I was first in line to back the expansion on Kickstarter. I haven't even read up on much about what it does, but it brings in new cards and a few extra elements, and so that's why I want to try it. Felix is a party game where you are discussing your feelings. The game will present you something, an idea such as they found the cure for immortality, and there's a bunch of feelings represented on the table and you have to select one. So how do you feel about that? Does that make you feel joyous, anxious, scared? And you have to decide how your partner for that round feels about it. So you're having to read the minds of your friends, try and understand. And we played this one the other night, and I liked it because it makes you think, but it also creates a discussion. And loads of us were laughing at the kind of when somebody just completely doesn't understand you when they pick something that you're like, how on earth would you think that I would feel that way about that thing? So yeah, I think it's a cool take on a party game. It's something quite new that I don't have a game like this in my collection. So that's Felix. Meeple Circus. This is a dexterity game with some puzzly aspects. This was one that I got to play live on video, so you can check out the video at Shut Up and Sit Down, where I played it with Matt and Quinns from Shut Up and Sit Down and Efka and Elaine from No Pun Included, and had a blast. It's about stacking up meeples and elephants and donkeys and creating this circus act. You're doing it against a timer. It's very fiddly and tricky, and you're trying to complete certain card objectives to put these pieces in certain ways on your thing. So it's often very hard to get more points that way. So there's an aspect of pushing your luck, really, and I always push my luck way too far. Try something that's far too hard and it falls down just as the timer's about to end and I get no points. So that's a fun one. That's Meeple Circus. Divinity Derby is a racing game where you're also betting on the animals in this race, and you're sharing your hand of cards with the player on your left and your right, so you know what cards they can play and you can look at them to determine what you're going to bet on, because you can bet on animals to win or you can bet on them to lose. I played this one the other night and it's got some real thinkiness to it. We're all quite quiet whilst playing because you're bluffing at the same time. You don't want to give too much away. But it also plays quite quickly and it's got a nice look to it as well. I think the theme's a tiny bit dull, but definitely some interesting mechanisms. That's Divinity Derby. Dream Home is Dream Home 156 Sunny Street is the expansion to Dream Home that came out last year at Essen, and this one makes Dream Home a more interesting game. It gives you some hidden objectives, ways that you want to design your house. It also has some public objectives, these friends that you can invite over to your house if you design it in a certain way, and just some extra cards. It's a really nice family game, Dream Home, and this one makes it that little bit more thinky and I think improves the game. So if you like Dream Home, I would recommend getting 156 Sunny Street. Ultimate Showdown is the third game that I asked Jon from Jon Gets Games to bring back from the from the US for me. And this is a party game that I'd seen a really good review from the Game Boy Geek about, and it plays out like a bracket. I don't know how best to describe it. They have these basketball brackets in America where teams play against each other and they get whittled down until there's one final winner. And you're doing this with characters or celebrities, and you're voting on things like, so for example, who throws the best party out of Genghis Khan and Medusa and Scarecrow and Easter Bunny. And there's also some hidden betting to it as to which you think will win. I was interested in it, haven't played it though. Ultimate Showdown. Fog of Love. This is a game I'm super excited about. It arrived for me just before Essen, And I got to chat to the designer Jacob about this one evening at Essen, and it was fascinating. It made me even more excited about a game that I'm really excited about. It's a game about playing relationships, and he was talking to me for ages about how long it took him to design it, but the thought processes he went through and understanding different dynamics of relationships and trying to come up with a game that wasn't just cooperative, it wasn't just competitive, that somehow found like a middle ground. I'm not going to do it justice, but the game itself just sounds amazing and it looks incredible. Haven't played this one yet. This is probably the next game for me to play. Really, you've got hidden objectives. It's really thematic and it's simulating relationships and fascinating subject matter in my opinion. Professor Evil and the Citadel of Time is a cooperative game, and it's about working against, there's this Professor Evil guy and he's trying to steal all the history's famous artifacts and you're trying to stop him. It has some nice artwork and it seems like it's a family weight cooperative game. I love games like Pandemic, so it really comes down to whether the game has interesting enough mechanisms to make every game appealing and to have that just right amount of challenge, and I'm hoping this one does. That's Professor Evil on the Citadel of Time. Iconicus, this is a game where you have these icons that represent different emotions, and you will be asking a question, how does someone feel about something, and they will be describing their emotion just with icons. So it could be slightly abstract, some things will make sense more than others, and then I believe you're trying to guess how that person, which of the cards was their reaction, their emotion to that question. So a simple party game, Iconicus. Scribble Time was one that I got to try at Essen. This is a fast drawing game. One person is reading out 20 words, pretty much one a second. You're having to scribble them down in this complete incomprehensible way. And then at the end of the round, you're being asked to remember what you drew. And it's amazing how impossible it is to remember what you drew just 20 seconds ago. And so it has a real challenge to it. And I mean, it's a clever twist on a drawing game. We played this the other night, and the only real trouble we had with it was a couple of the production quality with the game. The game itself is really strong, and I really enjoy it. So we might have to find ways to improve the components for us, but it's a cool idea. That's Scribble Time. Muse. This is probably one of the games I've been most impressed with by Essen that I've played so far. This is a party game with Dixit-style art cards, and you play on teams, and you're having to describe to your teammates one of 6 cards, these surreal art cards, but you're doing it in specific ways, and the game has a whole bunch of different ways that you can do it. So sometimes you have to hum a melody, sometimes you have to name a tool or name a famous building, or sometimes you have to do a shape with your hands or with your body. So I love that there's loads of different challenges. For me, this is a game that's far more interesting and fun than Dixit. It plays a lot quicker, and I love the challenges that the game forces you. It's also just a lovely box and great artwork. So if you like party games at all, Muse is a fun one. Destination X, played the other night. This is from Aporta Games that made Avenue and a bunch of interesting games. They're from Norway, and this one is kind of an educational party game. One person picks a country to hide in, they're a spy, and there's 6 country cards out face up that everyone can see, and then you're asking questions about those countries, and there's a big book in this game that tells you the facts about these countries. So you might ask the population or the GDP or the religion, things like that. And so you're having to use your own understanding of geography and these different countries and whittle down, deduce So it feels a little bit like Unusual Suspects, where you're trying to aim for a spot and every turn you're having to eliminate one of the answers, and you're doing it by asking these specific questions that the cards allow you to do. It has a real educational aspect to it because you're learning stuff as you go. So this is definitely one that would be great for kids that maybe are trying to learn geography. But we enjoyed this one. It isn't your average party game, and I like that. I always like something that's unique, and we had a good time with it. I think the person that's hiding doesn't have a whole lot to do. They're really just answering questions, but it was still a fun time. That's Destination X. Magic Maze Maximum Security. This is the expansion to Magic Maze. If you don't know about Magic Maze, check out my review. It's a great real-time cooperative game, and this expands upon it. I haven't played it yet, but I'm super excited to. Dr. Microbe. This is from Roberto Fraga, who has designed a whole bunch of games like this. So if you've seen Dr. Eureka, this is in a similar line where you're all playing, you're racing to complete something the fastest. So a card is flipped, it tells you what to do, and in Dr. Microbe, you're having to tweezer out these little bacteria, microbe things, and put them in your petri dish and complete it the fastest. And there's a little bit of a puzzle aspect to it. Panic Mansion, also from Blue Orange Games, just like Dr. Microbe, is similar to that. It's actually from Daniel and Asger, who designed Tale of Pirates, where a card is flipped, but in this one you have this little, let me just get it out. You have, in this game, a little mansion. There's these rooms, and then you've got these different meeples and cubes and things in the rooms, and you're having to tilt it up and try and get exactly the right things in one of the specific rooms, but none of the other things. And of course, they're all moving around. It's very hard to control. So that, again, is another sort of family party game. Probably quite a good drinking game as well. That's Panic Mansion. Queen Domino is an advancement to King Domino. King Domino came out last year and is a very popular game, won the Spiel des Jahres, where you are selecting dominoes and building a little kingdom with them, and you're trying to create regions of different crops and forests and things and ocean and things like that. And Queen Domino takes all of that and adds some extra stuff. You're building buildings and getting points in different ways. Finally, the last game is Rescue Polar Bears. This is also from Taiwan, and this is a cooperative game about rescuing polar bears that comes with these lovely wooden meeples or tiny polar bears that are super, super cute. And you're driving these boats around the North Pole, breaking ice and trying to keep the temperature down, trying to rescue the polar bears, but you're also trying to collect data to send back to your government so that it'll take action on climate change. So a really interesting and important theme. I really like the theme of this one, and it's a cooperative game. That is Rescue Polar Bears, Data and Temperature. So finally, just a few other things to mention. Jon from Jon Gets Games gave me a branded water bottle, so thanks to Jon. That's really useful. When I Dream came with a slightly ridiculous sleeping nightcap thing, and then there was just a few promos that I picked up. So Magic Maze had some extra tiles. Some of them seem like they make the game a little bit trickier or interesting that you can just shuffle into any Magic Maze game. So that's cool. And then also they had these Twimples, which are like little miniatures for the game, because the game comes with these boring wooden pawns, and now the characters are miniatures if you have this. So that's really cool. I like anything that kind of pimps out a game. I also picked up the Kitchen Rush Kickstarter promos, and this just adds extra stuff to Kitchen Rush, a few extra ideas. It brings in wine bottles and fish to your recipes, and there's also food critics, and I think you have health inspections. So it's just going to make the game harder. It's hard enough as it is. Then I got some promo cards for When I Dream and for Liberatores and Pursuit of Happiness. I'm super excited to get these promo tiles for the special tiles for the pizza game, New York Slice. I really love that game, and anything that just adds extra content to that. They're from Bezier Games, so excited by those. And then a few other promos for Destination X and Fog of Love and My Story and Pursuit of Happiness. I briefly got stopped by the designer of Tiefentashen, which was a game that I loved last year from Essen. This is a small box negotiation game that I've reviewed on the channel. And he gave me this little rule variant for the game, which is exciting, that makes the voting, just changes up the voting a little bit. And it was really great to meet him and learn that Tiefentashen is being picked up by a big US publisher. He wouldn't tell me who, but it's going to have a much wider release. So that's cool, and I wonder if they'll make any changes to the game or just update the artwork. I don't even know, but it's exciting that a small game that I really enjoyed from last year is finally going to reach a bigger audience, just like When I Dreamed did. So I think that is everything. That was a lot of stuff to talk about with a few stoppages in between. Thank you so much for watching and persevering with all of this. I had a great time at Essen this year. It was so great to meet everyone that came up and said hi. I got to give them Timmy badges and take selfies, and a wonderful time at the meetup. I really want to thank my girlfriend Serena. She was there with me the whole time. She looked after me. She carried games with me. She demoed games with me, and I really would recommend to not go to Essen on your own like I did last year. It can be a lonely experience walking around the halls, and it's stressful and tiring, and it's good to have a friend or a partner there with you, and Serena was wonderful, so thank you to her. Thank you so much for watching. Look out for my Now Playing vlogs, where I'll be talking about all of these games when I finally get around to playing them and talking about them. If you want to help Actualol grow bigger and better, I would really appreciate your support on Patreon. Head over to patreon.com/Actualol to pledge. Thanks for watching. I'm Jon Purkis. See you at next Essen.